Cowboy saw her get left. Then said, "I'll take you home if you'll let me." The bus didn't even slow down when it left her. It coughed out a cloud of dust, groaned once like it was tired of carrying other people's sorrow, and rolled on down the cracked highway toward the horizon. The sound faded, but the silence it left behind was heavier than any noise. She stood there with one small suitcase at her feet, fingers clenched tight around the handle like it might disappear too if she let go. The wind tugged at her coat, lifting loose strands of her hair across a face that had learned to hold pain quietly. Nobody else waited at the stop. No family. No friend. No promise. Just her. She swallowed and told herself she wouldn't cry. Not here. Not where the world could see. She had cried enough on that long ride west, cried for the life she'd left behind, for the promises that had broken one by one, for the man who'd sworn he'd come for her and never did. When the bus driver had finally said, "End of the line," she'd stepped down believing someone would be waiting. No one was. Across the road, a man sat on his horse, watching. He hadn't meant to stare. He'd been riding fence lines since dawn, dust on his boots, sun on his shoulders, mind quiet the way it only got out here. But when the bus stopped and she stepped down, something in his chest tightened. Maybe it was the way she stood so straight while the ground seemed to shift beneath her. Maybe it was the way she looked after the bus as if she'd lost something she couldn't replace. The cowboy tipped his hat lower, telling himself it wasn't his business. Folks came and went all the time. That was the world now. But when the bus drove off and she didn't move, didn't wave, didn't turn, didn't do anything except stand there, he knew she'd been left. Minutes passed. She finally bent to lift her suitcase, but it scraped weakly against the dirt and tipped over. Papers spilled out. A worn envelope. A folded dress. A photograph she snatched up too quickly, pressing it to her chest like it could protect her. That was when he rode closer. "Ma'am," he said gently, stopping a respectful distance away. His voice was calm, steady, the kind that didn't rush you. "You all right?" She flinched, startled, then looked up. For a second she didn't speak, just studied him like she was deciding whether the world was safe enough to answer honestly. I'm fine," she said, the lie thin as glass. He nodded, not calling her out. "Bus usually don't leave folks stranded," he said. "Someone meant to meet you." Her mouth trembled before she could stop it. She looked down, smoothed the crease in her coat, and whispered, "I thought so." That was all it took. He swung down from his horse and crouched to help gather her things, handing them back one by one like they mattered, because they did. When he passed her the envelope, she hesitated, then took it, fingers brushing his. The contact was brief, but it felt grounding somehow. "My name's Eli," he said. "I got a ranch a few miles east. Town's another 10. Ain't much shelter here." She hesitated again. The world had taught her caution. Trust had cost her dearly before. "I'm Clara," she said at last. I don't really have anywhere to go." Eli studied her face, not with hunger, not with pity, but with something steadier. Respect, maybe. Or recognition of a kind of loneliness he knew well. "I saw you get left," he said honestly. Then, after a pause, added, "I'll take you home if you'll let me." The words hung there, simple and unforced. No expectation. No pressure. Clara searched his eyes, looking for the catch she was sure had to be there. But she didn't find one. Just a man offering help because he could. Her shoulders sagged, the strength she'd been borrowing finally giving out. She nodded once. "All right," she said softly. "All right." As she climbed onto the horse behind him, holding on not to him but to the saddle, she didn't know she was riding toward the first place she'd ever truly belonged. The ride to the ranch was quiet, but it wasn't awkward. The land stretched wide and open, the kind of space that made breathing easier. Clara watched the sun dip lower, painting the fields gold, and felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Peace. Eli didn't ask questions. He let the silence do its work, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like she had to explain herself. When the ranch house came into view, it wasn't grand. It was sturdy. Lived in. A place that had weathered storms and stayed standing. He helped her down, took her suitcase without comment, and showed her inside. "You can stay the night," he said. "Longer, if you need. No strings." That was the moment she broke. Tears slipped down her cheeks, silent but unstoppable. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what that means." "Maybe I do," he said quietly. Days turned into weeks. Clara helped where she could, cooking, mending, learning the rhythms of ranch life. Eli never crossed a line. Never made her feel like she owed him anything. And that, somehow, was what made her trust him. At night, they talked on the porch. About where she'd come from. About the promises that had failed her. About his own losses, a wife taken too soon, a house once full now echoing. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in moments. Shared laughter. Quiet understanding. The way he always made sure she felt safe. One evening, as the sun sank low again, Clara realized something had changed. She wasn't waiting anymore. Not for a bus. Not for someone who'd never come. She'd already arrived. Eli looked at her then, really looked, and said, "You don't have to leave, you know." She smiled through tears. "I know. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it rides in on a dusty road and simply asks if you'd like to come home." And if this story moved you, subscribe to the channel, because more powerful stories of hope, kindness, and second chances are coming your way.